If you don't know what Go Code is, it's a statewide apps challenge. So it's like a hackathon on steroids. It's a hackathon plus. So 5 cities, April 10th through 12th, get a team together, and the top 2 teams from every city have a month to turn their app into a potential business. And then the final 3 winners get $25,000 from the state to incubate their business and get it to go for the next year. So definitely, if you don't have a team, consider getting one together. Time's coming up soon. And in preparation for that, next weekend, I think is the 28th, probably? Yeah? Yeah. So, been a little busy, right. So on the 28th, if you guys have some time to come out and help us out, we're doing like a mini hackathon thing with the data that we wrangled, which actually I'm on the data wrangling team, to be helpful. So we're going to take all the data that we have wrangled for the event this year, and we're going to get some people together and try to flesh it out, test it out, stress test our enhanced metadata repository, as we're calling it. And so that really helps you understand what's in the data. A lot of us looking for projects have to spend a lot of time figuring out what data might work for us or not, so we're trying to improve that process. So if you have the time next Saturday and you want to refine your skills but don't want to make a big commitment for something beyond that day, definitely come and help us out. We appreciate it. Question?
Yes, where is this data wrangling occurring?
Ah, thank you. Good call. It's at the touring school, which probably most people are familiar with Galvanize. Touring is of the same caliber. So I'd say the more the merrier in the town, right? We get these opportunities out there. So yeah, we're at touring school next Saturday, so if you can come help us out. So, all right, so I am Margaret, and I'm gonna basically show you 5 charts and tell you some stories, and hopefully there's something interesting along the way. I have to admit that I stole all the charts from this book, except for one, so I gotta give my props. But if you have not read this book and you don't know a lot about the data application side of it, this is a really interesting way to understand that whole element, and they do a nice presentation of the concepts, and we'll go over some of them in a little bit here. But to start, how does this tie into the theme of the event tonight? I'm going to start talking about the team that I'm on. We have a great team. There's just 4 of us, and we just got to that sync point where everybody knows whose place is what, and we could fill in if somebody drops the ball or if somebody's got something to do. We can catch that ball, but we're not ego-driven and doing each other's jobs. It's a really, if you've been on a team like that, when you're able to be effective, oh man, there's not much better. So we've got a great team on our data team. So I started with this slide though to kind of, I like the categories and the different visualizations. This is from Harlan Harris and Analyzing the Analyzers, and how people kind of self-classify their role and how their skills kind of work together to contribute to the team. So when we first started, we have a tech lead who is like the heavy hitter, right? He's been coding for 25 years. He knows every language inside and out, and you wonder how 20 years will do that for you. So definitely Mike has his place on the team, right? He's the heavy hitter. And then we have our intern, and you know, he has his place on the team, very clear. Somebody's got to do the grunt work and learn their ropes, you know. So he's got to. And then we have our project manager, got to manage the project. And here I am as the data analyst. You know, everyone's kind of wondering, what am I going to bring to the team? And I even wondered, you know, still learning how to code here. I still have, you know. But come to find out throughout the course of the process, there's a big part of data wrangling that's called data acquisition. And you have to go out and talk to all these data providers and help them understand the value of opening up data and why they want to do more work that their boss didn't tell them to do. And lo and behold, that's not a very easy thing to do. And so we end up doing 80% of our time communicating to people, and maybe 20% actually working with the data. So here we are, you know, leading up to the event, and I spent the past 4 months talking to every state agency in Colorado and working and explaining, and really that's been the biggest work that we've had to do on the team. So it's really my ability to communicate, which is my strength, or my red bar, that ended up being like a really important part of the project. And even just yesterday, we had one of our biggest data sets is over 1 million records, and it's all the businesses in Colorado, and we had a major problem. It was appending and not updating, and so we actually had a 10 million record thing people were downloading, and they're going, this isn't right, and we're going, you're right, that's not right. So, so I said, my tech guy, the lead tech guy, he's got his place on the team, right? I was like, yeah, why don't you write that up and send that off? Well, since I'm the liaison, I show up at the office the next morning. I'm not even allowed to take my code off. Margaret, get in here. What is this email? We need our decoder rings to figure this out, and going on and on. And so I was like, well, clearly my value is showing itself here, because my capacity to explain, it's really quite simple. It's just appending, not updating. Without explaining code details was what they needed to see their part, which was, we just need to refine what are these duplicates that are causing the problem and resolve. So definitely as we've gone along, I found that it's the diversity of my skills, right, that definitely helps me in my place on the team. So taking it a little further with teamwork and working together, my boss told me about this. This is the one slide I made up. And I've also made up coworker quadrants. So on the bottom we have increasing level of technical competence. So in the lower left, you get that, right? And then on the other side is your capacity to be a team member and your capacity to work well together. So you may have worked with some of these people that are the heavy hitters, and they can code their way out of a black box, but they can't work with anybody. They're just curmudgeon about it, and they prefer it that way. And so some of those workflows with those people are set up that just feed him what he wants. And then, we'll get back and we'll go again. We'll scrum and sprint our way through this, right? And then there's the other people that kind of, maybe they don't know how to code, okay? Maybe they're learning, but they have other capacities, right? And they're a pleasure to work with. And they're somebody that you want to be around. They know how to heads down, but then pop up with a really funny joke that keeps things going. It's that comic relief, really, that ultimately makes teamwork and fun together. So, so you definitely don't want to be this guy. And you definitely don't want to be that gal, and vice versa, this gal and that guy, right? That's not where you want to be. And that's not where you want to hire, right? You want to be on that central continuum there. So, in terms of the team and knowing your place and your value, remember that even if your skills aren't directly translated into what you think is the high value, there's a lot that you can bring to the table. And so this is again from the data science book. And so you can have your own data scientist profile, like on the left, that's a single person. And it's pretty standard that everyone's going to have some highs and lows, right? But so when we put it all together as a team, that we get a better, more even picture, and we get a better product as a result, because everybody's bringing something different and different perspectives. And so my strength may be this, but I can do that, and if I'm overwhelmed, hopefully my inverse person can help me out, and vice versa. So it really is the variety of what you have to bring to the table. It's not just one skill over the other. And so I'm going to close with one of my favorite, which is root mean square. So it looks kind of linear, right? But it's also kind of random. And there's a lot of different ways that you can draw a line through and from the upper left, but what is really the best fit, right? So the line that's closest to all points is your own personal root mean square. And so finding out where your line is helps you to understand your place in the team. And the things that you think maybe are your weaknesses actually might end up being the things that ultimately are your strong suits, or the things that show value on the team where otherwise people were scratching their heads in the first place. So be open to what you think is even a weakness, and know yourself, and find your line of these squares there. Figure out who you are, and own it, and be part of your team, and help your team be better. That's what I have. Thank you. Woo!
Great job, Margaret. Really great job. Okay, so last time I asked how many people have Twitter, and about a third of you raised your hands. How many people here have web browsing capable smartphones?